Bears, blog, boys, you know it all, computer, analytic, geeky nerds. Michael Schneider, Tom Cavanaugh, the Bear, blog, boys, know-it-alls, doing some podcast somewhere. Nobody wants to hear you. Geeks, you pencil-pushing, skinny jean-wearing geeks, you.
Coming to you live from our mom's basement, this is the Bears Blog Boys podcast. I'm your co-host, Tom Cavanaugh, here with my good buddy and other co-host, Michael Snyder. Snyder, this is a huge game for the Bears coming up. I feel like, I never want to say opponents are easy on the schedule, especially when they don't have like a losing record or anything like that. But the Bears' stretch of games after this Steelers game gets pretty tough. They run into a lot of divisional matchups. So I just think this game is so crucial. The Bears get this win, and then it can worry about the more difficult teams maybe splitting that series. I just think things will be a lot harder if they lose this game. But, buddy, how are you feeling? And do you feel the same way about this Bears-Steelers matchup?
I'm feeling good, man. And, yeah, I'm with you. I think we could say, like, this is a must-win just because then we know the road we have moving forward, right? You go 8-3, and then going against the stretch, okay, you could feel okay about, losing a few games, but you lose this one. It's almost like that Ravens game, right? You felt like, okay, you got to make a statement. You gotta win it. This is kind of like that same vibe. I know that didn't work out that first time, but this is the one where you kind of recoup from that, and you got to take this one home.
Yeah, you most definitely have to take it home. I just think that the Steelers are that we'll talk about their team, but they're a weird team, right? I think they're talented in certain areas, but it's a weirdly put together roster. I think that it's a really old roster, and there are spots where on paper, if you haven't watched that player in a really long time, you'd be like, oh, they're pretty strong there. But like when you like actually look into the context, you're like, okay, wait, you can maybe actually get after this spot of the roster. We'll talk about the ins and outs. But Snyder, I think the whole narrative it's funny because every single matchup the Bears have had against the NFC or the AFC North, we have been uncertain who the quarterback was going to be in those games. It's really funny it's worked out that way. The Ravens, we thought Lamar Jackson was going to play. It ended up being Tyler Huntley. Joe Flacco, we didn't know until like Friday or Saturday that he was going to play. And now it sounds like it's going to be Rodgers, but I mean, he fractured his wrist. We don't quite know if it will be. To be honest with you, Snyder, I don't think it makes that big of a difference. I don't think the Steelers play a style of football where they're putting a lot of onus on their quarterback anyway. I think they're like really just trying to regulate them as more of game managers. But I don't know. What is your thoughts on this whole quarterback situation, the unknown for the Steelers?
Yeah, to be honest, the Bears fan in me, I want to like slay the dragon of Aaron Rodgers and just beat him when he's old, brittle, and just not the guy who's been terrorizing us for so long, most of my adulthood. So I almost do want to play Aaron Rodgers because I just see every weekend I see this Pittsburgh offense kind of struggling, and I see him getting frustrated. I see him yelling at his players and stuff. And I just want to see the Bears just disrupt that and make him even more frustrated. So the Bears fan in me, I do want to see that. But I think I'm with you. This offense, again, it's an Arthur Smith offense there. It doesn't scare me either way. You're right. So I don't think it really makes a big difference who plays. Mason Rudolph would be the backup. I think we've seen enough of him that he, again, struggles to move the ball forward. And I just think it's very much the same either way you go.
Yeah, both these teams are kind of constructed to play the same way. I feel like the Steelers have kind of made a living off in winning in those tight situations where things can go either way. I feel like the Steelers' luck is kind of carried over through season for the last couple seasons until they get to the playoffs. The Bears kind of have won the same way this year. So they're similar teams, maybe not on how they're constructed roster-wise, but in like the ways that they want to win. They're kind of leaning into the I guess, fickle ways of winning. And yeah, Snyder, the Arthur Smith offense is definitely designed to be efficient, to stay ahead of the chains, to not take negative plays. And I really think that's kind of how Rodgers has operated it. It was going to be interesting to see what kind of offense the Steelers were going to be, because everywhere Aaron Rodgers has gone, it's been his offense. Like that's
Right.
that like, and that's not been the case for the Steelers. It's definitely been Arthur Smith's offense and Aaron Rodgers is running it. I mean, I'm sure there's elements of the things Aaron Rodgers likes to do. Like I think the adjustments he's able to make at the line of scrimmage, when you see those quick routes to DK Metcalf, those back shoulder throws or those slants, that's definitely Aaron Rodgers through and through. But this is a team that uses a lot of tight ends, that doesn't really have a secondary receiver. I think outside of the Rams, they use the most multi-tight end packages in the NFL. So, they're teams that are kind of wanting to win similar ways. And I don't know if we want to jump in on the defensive side of the ball center, but surprisingly, I kind of think the Bears defense matches up pretty well with the Steelers offense, because I think what has hurt the Bears, obviously, sometimes it's been the run game, but sometimes it's just been like weapons in the passing game. Like I feel like we kind of struggled to contain weapons in the passing game. And really, if the Bears get Jalen Johnson back, all you really have to worry about is DK Metcalf, right? And I think that yes, with the Bears' current linebacker situation and all those guys being banged up, that could hurt you against those multi-tight end packages. But through the pass game, they don't really scare me a whole lot if that's what they're going to come out and do. If they're going to put like Darnell Washington out as a consistent threat in the passing game. I know he had that one cool play, but I'm not really nervous about Darnell Washington breaking explosive plays. So surprisingly, while I usually worry about the Bears defense, I do think that they match up semi-well with Aaron Rodgers in this one.
And that's the thing, right? Do I expect Jalen Johnson to come back and be 100%? Probably not. But if you just need erase one thing in the passing attack, and that being DK Metcalf, he's not this dynamic route running man beater technician of a wide receiver. Don't get me wrong, he's a good football player, but I think with Jalen Johnson being so technical, so high IQ, that DK is not really that guy that really scares me against a Jalen Johnson or honestly really whoever it is there. And that's the thing, Tom. Other than that, I think their wide receiver too was Calvin Austin. Like there's just nothing really there. So if you're just telling me like your main objectives on the defense is stopping DK Metcalf and stopping the run against their 12 personnel or their 13 personnel, whatever they're doing over there, that's not really a huge task for this defense. I think that's more of like, I think that's Dennis Allen can call it defense to kind of maybe prioritize stopping those two things. It's not a difficult task. So yeah, like you said, I do think this defense does match up to this Steelers offense. And if it's Aaron Rodgers or Mason Rudolph, I still doesn't change the task for me.
Yeah, because it's so design heavy to like run the plays that are called. And what I mean by that is like it's a lot of play action. It's a lot of like get it to the primary read. It's not like Aaron Rodgers is spreading out the defense and just picking them apart, like going through his progressions. It's not the kind of offense Arthur Smith has. And I don't think you can have that with the talent they have. They don't have the talent to kind of just line up and beat anybody. They kind of have to scheme around their limitations. They don't, like you said, like Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin, like they have nice moments, but they're not like players that really, really scare you. So yeah, they have to really scheme it up and kind of deceive the defense with getting in these run packages and passing out of them. So I think in this game, it's going to be really important. Obviously getting pressure on the quarterback is important, but really I think Aaron Rodgers wants to get rid of the ball fast anyway. That's just since like a couple years ago, since he's gotten older, he doesn't really hold on to the ball that long anymore. I mean, you see glimpses of it, but he wants to get rid of the ball. He does not want to take hits at this age. That's the style he wants to play. So I think really, Snyder, it's going to be important to just tackle and get guys on the ground. I think yards after the catch opportunities, if you allow the Steelers to get those plays, whether that's, I think Jalen Warren, Kenny Gainwell, DK Metcalf, those kind of players that are actually pretty good after the catch. That's what will hurt you if you can't rally and tackle, because that's the kind of style that they want to play anyway. They're not looking to like chunk the ball down the field. It's more they want to do the dink and dunk and get yards after the catch opportunity. So it's going to be really important that the Bears tackle. And that's a little worrisome when all three of your linebackers have not practiced this week, right? TJ Edwards is probably going to be out. Noah Sewell Tremaine Edmonds have also not practiced. That's a little concerning, actually, when you look at this offense. It's a lot of play action. It's a lot of attacking the second level of the defense, and the Bears could be pretty banged up heading into this game.
Yeah, so maybe that is where you maybe get an advantage with Rodgers, because he's gonna maybe be a little bit more experienced attacking that play action, maybe a little bit more than Mason Rudolph. So I could see that there. You just hope you get at least one of your starters there, right?
Yes.
Give me one. Give me Tremaine Edmonds there. And I could live without Newell Sewell being there and whoever they bump up there. But yeah, that is a concern.
And this is a game where, again, we talked about the defense. We're never like thrilled with who they're going up against. But the Steelers' offensive line, I think, is okay. It's played better, but this is a game where, okay, yeah, your pass rush might not be doing great right now, but can you at least stop the run, right? Can you at least do that? Can this front dominate an inexperienced, I'll say, Steelers offensive line, right? They're missing their starting center. They're starting a second-year guard. They have Broderick Jones. This is not like a great group. I think it's a pretty average group, and you're hoping baseline, can this defensive line be an average to above average run defense group? And I think if you can be that, then you don't have to rely on some of these backup linebackers. Maybe then if Kyler Gordon is able to come back, he's been a limited participant in practice. We already mentioned Jalen Johnson is probably going to come back as well. Then you can get more DBs on the field, right? And maybe you can move Brisker closer to the line of scrimmage, and maybe that would be better for him. And we can play more dime. And that's maybe what they're going to have to do because they're so banged up at linebacker. Like, do you want to play Ruben Hippolyte against Aaron Rodgers? I don't. I personally don't want to do that. I think that's kind of a losing proposition because he's so inexperienced. And this team's going to run the ball. Whether they're good at it or not, they're going to run the ball. And if Ruben Hippolyte's got to play in this one, I really worry about that because we've seen that's kind of been why he has not been able to see the field because he's just too slow to diagnose the run.
That sounds fun. That you put Brisker inside linebacker, you put Chauncey Gardner at safety, and then you have Kyler Gordon in the nickel. You have Jalen Johnson coming back. That sounds fun. Sounds like a fun back seven. That I would like to see how that works out there. I think this is the offense, so maybe you could try that out, right? So yeah, I mean that sounds fun. I would like to see Brisker. You can kind of disguise him on some blitzes as well from that linebacker spot. Get creative with Kyler Gordon there a little bit. I mean that sounds like some pretty cool combinations you can mess with there.
I definitely think we'll see some schemed up pressures again. The Bears are not like a zero blitz team. They don't bring the house. They kind of try to scheme it up to bring some unconventional rushers. Like that's what they've been doing. I think it's really tough to do that against Aaron Rodgers. That's the way he wants to play anyway. He has no problem just sitting there and picking apart your blitzes. He's seen it all, right? He's the oldest quarterback in the NFL. I think outside of Joe Flacco. I think they're maybe like the same age, but that's what he wants to do anyway. I think the Chargers just like flat out, and they had a lot of success against Rodgers. They flat out just like didn't. I don't think they blitzed him once that game, and I think we're going to continue to see that because that's the way this offense wants to play anyway. So I'm going to be curious to see if the Bears get impatient, if they can't generate pressure, if Rodgers is getting the ball out of his hands too quickly, if they do start to ramp up the pressure and bring those unconventional rushers that we've seen since the bye week. But ultimately, like I'm willing to play a bend, don't break style of defense because that's a hard way to live consistently throughout a game. If you have to just continue to dink and dunk your way down the field, I'm willing to live with that, especially because I don't think the Packers have like the game breakers to break this game open. If you have to continually to play for the short passes and then get caught flat-footed on deep passes. I know DK Metcalf has been a good deep threat in the past, Hunter, but you talk about like DK Metcalf. There's obviously strengths to his game, but he's not like this like elite number one receiver. I would go even a step further in that the Steelers don't really aid him at all in terms of getting him easy looks. He's on the boundary like almost all the time, and that's going to play right in. That's going to be easy pickings for Jalen Johnson, to be honest. So if that's the way they want to use him and really just split him out wide and make him that X receiver and not really hide him at all, in the formations. I think that's going to, if Jalen Johnson's back, even not at full health, I think he's going to take them away pretty easily.
Yeah, you know what, Tom? I was talking about this with my manager at work. I'm so thankful I can even say this. When you look at a matchup where you have Ben Johnson calling plays and you have Arthur Smith calling plays, that's probably the biggest advantage of the whole entire thing there. Because like, you just broke that down perfectly, right? You have the most talented wide receiver on your roster is so clearly DK Metcalf, right? And you kind of just use him as that like sacrificial X wide receiver, get a little bit of tension, right? But then you see like, for example, Dave Canales with the Panthers, right? You see Tetiora McMillan broke out because now you're using him in the slot more. Now you're moving him out wide. And you always see all like the best wide receivers get utilized that way. The way the Bengals would use Jamar Chase, the way Kevin O'Connell uses Justin Jefferson. Like feature your number one wide receiver. And, you know, DK Metcalf, as far as weapons, he's the best football player on the Steelers, right? On the offensive side of the ball. So you'd think you'd get creative in utilizing him, just getting him the ball, get him in a favorable matchup, and let his, you know, football playmaking ability help you a little bit. But they don't do that with him. So again, if you just need to stop DK Metcalf from being an outside receiver, and you have an all-pro technician, high IQ Jalen Johnson, that's not a huge task for him, right? And if you wipe out DK, the only thing that really you worry about is the run game.
Yes.
I can live with that, right? That's not a hard matchup, right? Now, if you get beat in the run game and you get, you know, you're ran down your throat, you probably deserve to get, you know, and you know that's what's coming. You probably deserve to get your ass kicked. But at least you know what's in front of you. At least you know what to expect. And it's not too exotic. You're not, you know, you don't have a quarterback just ripping you up like a Swiss cheese defense. If your job is to stop the run, I'm not worried about that task.
Yep, that's kind of the way I see it as well. I think that you got to worry about DK, but again, like I think sometimes he just gets phased out of games because of exactly what we just talked about. That he's not really aided. He's not made the focal point of this offense, despite him being the most talented player. Again, this is like a team that wants to feature their tight ends. They want to do play action off their run looks. That's what they want to do. And I think sometimes DK suffers from that. So yeah, but as long as you don't have to worry about him, which if Jalen Johnson's back in this one, I really don't think you will. Maybe I'll be wrong. But yeah, the run game is decent. Like they have decent pieces. Kenneth Gainwell's played well this year. Jaylen Warren, I think, has always been an underrated player. Like you definitely have to be on alert. And if the Bears want to come out and play the run like they did last week, then I will be concerned because that was a poor performance. I thought the Bears have been better overall in recent weeks, but last week was a really poor performance where they weren't really creating negatives, and Aaron Jones was kind of being able to get like 5 to 6 yards of carry. So I think it'll be kind of a similar attack in this one in terms of what they want to do. It's a lot of like outside runs. It's kind of what the Bears do on offense. So yeah, I'm not trying to totally just say that there's nothing to really worry about with this defense or this offense. It's the offense, it seems like. But yeah, I just think that you have to be patient and just not allow those yards after the catch opportunities. That's ultimately what the Steelers want to do. They want to run the ball. They want to get yak opportunities. And if you can stop one of those things, I think you got to like your chances to keep the game close. On offense, Snyder, for the Bears, this defense for the Steelers came into the season, I think, really vaunted. Like it could have, like, and it's been a pretty good unit over the course of the years. They have a really good defensive line. You know, TJ Watt, Ali Highsmith, Nick Herberg, Cam Hayward, and then even their 2 recent draft picks, Derek Harmon and Keanu Benton. Like that's a really good defensive line. Here's the thing. I think that they don't do a whole lot of creative things. Like John Ledyard, who's a great follow. He's an NFL draft guy, but he's also a Steelers fan. Said like TJ Watt is like the least moved around edge rusher. It kind of the same conversation we had with DK Metcalf. Like he's literally just on the left side all the time. Like that's exactly where he plays. They don't really do anything with him in terms of rushing him inside or even like having him rush like inside an offensive tackle where like he's only rushing that outside shoulder. So I think if you know that, like as Darnell Wright, I think if he knows that, you're a lot easier to prepare for if you kind of know, if you're kind of expecting what to get, even for as great of a player TJ Watt is, that can really help Darnell Wright. And then ultimately, I think that just kind of applies to this defense. It's a very stagnant defense. They run a lot of man coverage. They run a lot of cover three. It's single high. They don't do a whole lot of disguising. And I think it's adjusted a little bit after that Bengals game where they got totally shredded. I think that there's been some adjustments where they are implementing a little bit more coverages. But if you just look at the data overall, like this is a team that is, I mean, over half the snaps, they're in single high coverage. So yeah, it's not the most exotic defense, although they do have talented players though. It's not, I'm not trying to scoff away. Like I am worried about the left side of the offensive line. I am worried about Theo Benedict. Nick Herberg and Ali Highsmith have been awesome. That's probably my biggest concern. But I don't think this is going to be a hard defense for Ben Johnson to figure out.
No, again, that's why you're so thankful that you have Ben Johnson there. It's funny, Tom. Like their defense is almost filled with just a ton of round one or round two picks. Like you look on paper and maybe you're playing Madden or something. You're like, damn, this is a lot of talent there. But not too effective. I mean, yeah, their defensive line definitely. I mean, Cam Hayward still he's graded as the first defensive tackle per PFF. Herberg is really up there, and then you have TJ Watt, which again you feel good about Darnell Wright in that matchup. That's why you drafted him there. But yeah, I mean, good talent on paper, not really that productive though this year.
Yeah, I think they're definitely held back from some coaching limitations, and their corners, like their whole plan at corner was just a little confusing, right? They come in and they want to be this man coverage heavy defense, yet they signed Darius Slay and Jalen Ramsey, like who are definitely in the twilights of their careers, and they get absolutely torched in man coverage because they're old, right? And they can't hang with like the Bengals and these other teams. So then they end up moving Jalen Ramsey to safety. They trade for Kyle Duggar, and they have had more stability there. I just think that if Darius Slay plays in this one, that's who you want. I'm sure they're going to have Joey Porter Jr. matched up on Rome as much as they can. But that's who, if Darius Slay plays in this one, I think he's questionable with the concussion. I have no idea the status of if he'll actually play or not. That's who I want to get matched up on. I want Rome. This is a Rome Dunze game through and through. I think we've seen, like, I forgot where I saw it. It's like the stats, the splits against man coverage and zone coverage. Rome is like the most targeted player on the Bears by far against man coverage. And it makes sense. He's like the best separator. I think they design the most plays for him in those situations because they know he's going to get open. So it's not like Joey Porter Jr. scares me at all, but I do think that's probably his strength, press man coverage. Whereas Darius Slay, I just think you can get behind him, you can run away from him. That's the matchup I want to exploit. Whenever I can get either Burden, any of the receivers, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze running away from Darius Slay in man coverage, that's where I think the Bears can have a lot of their success.
Yeah, and we need him, right? Rome's kind of, production-wise, kind of hasn't been there the past few weeks from what he was early on the season. We need a get-right Rome game where you just kind of target him a lot, let him get open, and just hit him, right? Maybe take a little bit more deep shots, but you want to see Rome step up, right? So it's kind of funny. So you've seen the Bears running game get a lot more productive after the bye, but you haven't seen it really combined with the passing attack on, the same cue. So if you could get both those things going, Tom, we could really have a big offensive performance. And I think against this defense, it could be that game where you kind of see the best of both worlds finally get unlocked for the first time.
Yep, and we'll talk about the run game in this specific game because the Steelers have actually not been that great of a run defense despite them having a really talented defensive line. And I really think that comes back to, if you just look at where they're weak, they are really bad at defending outside runs. And that kind of makes sense because our linebackers have not played well. And I know that they've tried to get more stability up the spine with, like I told you, those two safety additions. So maybe it'll be a little different. But I think that the Bears can get after them for sure. That's what the Bears want to do in the run game. They want to have those outside runs, outside zone, those toss crack plays with DeAndre Swift. I think this can be another situation where Swift has a really strong game because his skill set plays against the Steelers' weaknesses. And if the Bears want to continue to lean on those outside runs, I think they can be just as productive as they have. I think what you don't want to do is continually test the interior of this defensive line because they are pretty strong against the run. They're a lot better against the run on inside runs. So I'm sure we'll see a lot of DeAndre Swift in this game. I'm sure we'll see a lot of like sweeps to Luther Burden and DJ Moore. I think you can kind of get after the Steelers in all those different ways. But really, I think exactly what the Steelers want to do on offense is kind of what the Bears, I think, are going to want to do on offense too. If you can get that run game going, and then if you can get those play action plays going against the Steelers man coverage, that is where I think you can absolutely gash them, chunk plays over the middle over and over and over again. And hopefully it really starts with establishing the run and making the Steelers fear your run game.
And I think that's what the Bears want to do. You've seen it last week where Ben Johnson was calling up a ton of play action, but I think it almost helps Caleb get rid of the ball quicker, right? So I have noticed, like, after he gets out of that play action break, he just fires it in there towards the middle of the field a lot quicker versus not doing the play action. That's one small thing I did notice. So, again, but if you're building off the run like that and you're keeping those linebackers on their toes, biting, keeping them confused, you are going to have a lot of middle of the field shots there. And I think Caleb last week showed me so much of the way he was just standing in there, dealing, fired in the middle of the field. Your wide receiver just got to make a play, hold on to the ball. But just that aggressiveness, that anticipation that I've seen in that middle of the field from Caleb, one of the best I've ever seen. So if you can build off of that, what you did last week, and your receivers can come down to it, you could really, really push that ball forward.
Yeah, and maybe they could even take some deep shots in this game as well because, like you said, the Steelers are going to test you, right? They're going to try to play some man coverage against you. I know the Bears don't really have like a vertical threat in sense, and Ben Johnson even talked about this. Like he doesn't like 50-50 balls, and I loved that answer from him. That they tend to be more inefficient than we actually perceive them to be if you just look statistically, and I think that explains a lot of why Ben Johnson runs the style of offense that he does. He wants high efficient plays. And that's why it is a lot of catch and run opportunities. So, but if the Steelers are going to test you and, Luther Burden's playing more, we know he's got the juice. He can win down the field. Maybe you can scheme up some deeper shots. So I know it hasn't been as man coverage centric as of lately. I think the Steelers have dived into more split safety looks, which kind of makes sense because they got really gashed. Again, in that Bengals game, like I mentioned. But yeah, I think if they're going to give you those opportunities to take your shots, you got to take them, right? And we'll see if that's the case. The Bears had their chances last week. They didn't connect on either one. And hopefully that will come around because we really haven't seen those like really big down the field plays. And I think you'll have some opportunities to hit those plays.
Yeah, and you want to see that, right? You haven't really seen too much of the deep shots down the field. But again, if Rome can get open and you just hit them in stride, man, they're there. They're there almost every game. They just got to build that connection, man. They got to hit each other.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. The Steelers are the 7th worst defense, EPA per pass at defending 20-plus air yard passes. So again, this is a defense you can get after in that way. We'll see if the Bears want to approach it that way, but overall, Snyder, I'm expecting like a really – before I get into the overall expectations for this game, in terms of the expectations for Caleb, I think just kind of playing the way he has, not taking sacks. This is a defensive line that could definitely get after it. There's no doubt about it. That's the strength of their team. You don't want to hold on to the ball for too long. I'm not expecting a lot of blitzes. I know the Steelers do like to blitz every now and then, but they can really just win with their front. And I'm sure if they do blitz, I hope that the Bears have better answers for it than they did last week. Sometimes I think like something that I've noticed is that the Bears really do put a lot on Caleb in terms of just like pure progression dropbacks and not really just having quicker answers against the blitz, like whether that's a screen call, something to call at the line of scrimmage to get out of the look that you're in. And maybe we'll see more of that this week in a defense that I think you can get some yards after the catch opportunities. But in terms of Caleb's expectations, I think, just continue to do what you do. Don't take negative plays. And if he can be slightly more accurate, I think that he should have a lot of success in this game.
Yeah, and that's the only thing. And I know it's just a deep accuracy because I thought last week he was money middle of the field, right? It's just the deep one. It's the 20 plus yards that you just want to see him just hit someone. You don't have to overthrow everyone. And I don't know if he's just terrified of the ball being intercepted. I don't know what it is, but it's just the deep accuracy, man.
Yeah, for sure. And that's definitely got to improve, and I think we'll see it grow over time. But in terms of the expectations of this game starter, I think it's going to be one of these weird, fluky, like the weirdest stuff is going to happen. Both of these teams have like black magic surrounding them, and I think it's going to be a low scoring game. I think it's going to be one where it's going to come down to a few possessions, and the team that makes the least amount of mistakes will probably end up winning it. I think it's going to be one of these close score end of the game, like game-winning field goal types, because this is how both of these teams have kind of lived. The Steelers have lived this way throughout the years. I don't know if they have in recent weeks with Aaron Rodgers, but yeah, I don't think either of these teams have shown the capacity to like fully blow out teams. So I think it's going to be a really close game. I'm projecting like a 24-21 type of score. But who do you have winning in this game before I say who I have winning?
I have the Bears.
Okay.
The Bears are 2.5 favorites at home. I just think the biggest X factor here is the Bears offense just has more horses on their stable. And I gotta believe in Ben Johnson, the play caller, over Mike Tomlin, Arthur Smith. And, I just think they're going to make our jobs easier because of that mismatch. And that's why I am leaning the Bears. But yeah, I think it's going to be another close one. But I do think the Bears come away.
Yeah, I like the mismatch in play callers. I think Bears offensive coordinator Ben Johnson versus Terrell Austin, or I think that's the defensive coordinator's name, I think is a mismatch in itself. And yeah, if they want to come out in these stagnant looks, I think that's going to be, again, like easy pickings for Ben Johnson and what this Bears offense wants to do. Maybe they'll disguise things more. Maybe they'll ramp up the exotic blitzes. I know that the Steelers have done that in the past. I was trying to look up the statistics of how often they blitz, and I could do that right now, actually. But yeah, I think that's a total mismatch. But I do want to give their offense some credit. I think that they're off. I'm not saying that there's a mismatch in play caller between Aaron Rodgers and Arthur Smith versus Dennis Allen. But look, the Bears defense is just not that talented, right? Like the Bears defense can definitely be gotten. And I know they're getting some guys back, but they're really banged up at linebacker. This defensive line can't generate a pass rush. And you don't really want to blitz Aaron Rodgers. So I think the Steelers will have some success on offense. I just don't know if the Bears have the guys to fully want to stop what the Steelers want to do. They haven't been able to do that to really anybody. So I'm not expecting them to do that with the Steelers. So for those reasons, I do think the Steelers offense is going to have some success, but I just think that the Bears offense, like you said, they're more talented on offense. They have the better play caller in this scenario. And for those reasons, I will also lean the Bears here, but I do think it's going to be a really close game. And the Steelers have blitzed a lot. They're the fourth most amount of blitzes on pass plays. So that's something the Bears will definitely have to prepare for. But again, I think that they have the right play caller and the right weapons to do that. If the Steelers want to blitz a lot, I think this is a great game to get Luther Burden more involved, make him the quick outlet guy, because we know how dynamic he is after the catch. So yeah, I just think the Bears have a lot of answers on offense for what the Steelers want to do, and that's ultimately why I think the Bears win this game.
Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking, Tom. Why I'm always so optimistic about the Bears figuring out, because you haven't seen it fully put together for a full game as far as like penalties, offensive line gelling together, which I think they are now. The run game gotten going, but then you kind of see, the pass game kind of back up. So if you can kind of get all those gelling together, we haven't seen a full clean game where everything's clicking for this offense yet. And I think it's coming. It very well could be this one. When you combine that with the play caller, I think, I got to believe in the Bears, man. It's going to come together.
Absolutely. And it's going to be sweet, right? If the Bears can get this win against Aaron Rodgers to send him on his way out. Look, this is going to be Aaron Rodgers' last time probably playing against the Bears, I would assume. I mean, he could come back next year, but we only play the Steelers like every 4 years, I think, every 3 years, something like that. So this is probably going to be the last time the Bears play him, and it would be really sweet to send that last time out with an L, because we know he has given a lot of L's in our day. But look, this is a new Bears team. The Bears have been a dysfunctional mess for most of Aaron Rodgers' career. I'm not saying that there's still not traces of that dysfunction within this team, but this is a new team. And hopefully with this being an adult operation and the Bears just being a more improved team in general, the Bears can send Aaron Rodgers' last trip to Soldier Field out with an L.
Right. No, I need that. Because my first trip to Soldier Field, he threw a 4th and 7 bomb to Randall Cobb to lose the division and be sent home out of the playoffs. So if we could take care of business, his last game at Soldier Field, Tom, I need that sweet revenge.
Most definitely. All right, y'all. Well, this is going to be it for us today. We will be back to recap this game, but until we meet again, y'all keep it real and bear down.
Bear down.